Hi guys, welcome to episode 25 of Aeroland. I'm sorry it's been a while. I had a few busy weeks in which I didn't really have the time to play or edit the videos a lot. I made some attempts but I wasn't able to finish them in time, and it was just a very busy period for me, so that's one of the reasons it took me a while to publish this video. In this episode I'm going to build a small food shack in this area you see here. And people can stop there to buy a drink and have something to eat, because the nearest food stalls are quite a bit away. And I'm finishing up the area around the bridges. As you can see here, I'm filling this cliff with more rocks. I already added the terrain textures to paint the terrain, but I did the whole area with these rocks, so I did not really want to use the terrain textures to fill this up. I want to keep everything in the same style. That's the reason I kept playing around with these rocks. And as I said, I'm going to finish the bridges as well. The pathways are pretty thick, so I had to use a few layers of wooden beams to cover all the concrete which is sticking out on the side. I'm using 3 layers if I remember correctly. Yes, I did use 3 layers of these wooden beams, and the bottom of the bridge I'm going to fill them up with the planks of the wooden decks, the same pieces I used on the top, and this way it looks like the whole bridge is made of wood from the top and the bottom, because if you're sitting on the right it would be kind of weird to see a concrete ceiling if the idea had to be that it's made out of wood. So that's the reason I wanted to make the whole bridges look like they're made out of wood. For the fencing of the bridge I chose to use these wooden beams and have some ropes between them. This way the bridges are a lot safer for the guest, and I'm not just using 1 layer of ropes, I'm using 3. This way kids can't really crawl underneath and fall down. And it looks pretty good in my opinion. It's quite simple, but it looks pretty nice and tight. This bridge was a little bit harder to do because it has a small bend in the bridge. It was just slightly harder, it wasn't like undoable. Once again using the beams on the side of the bridge to like give a nice wooden curb to this pathway. And after this I'm going to place the fencing of the bridge, or the ropes, the same manner I did on the previous bridge. And the most important thing is that the cliffs on the side of the bridge are covered, so that's the reason I'm not making the fences run along the whole side of the bridge, just the open parts, because the rest is like fenced off using rocks. So here I'm going to build a small shack where people can buy something to eat and something to drink. It's basically just a small wooden house which is sitting here. It really fills the area up a little bit, it gives something extra to the area, and it's quite a simple house to be fair. I did not put too much effort in it. Just trying to use some different windows and some nice signs with the shop. The downside is that Pipshot water does not really have a small subtle signs, so I decided to use this big bottle and just place it on the side of the house like a big commercial thing, the way you can see it right now. Later I thought, like, let's build a water tower and have the sign on the water tower behind this building, because that way it really looks like the water is being stored inside the tower and is specifically used to sell it. But I did not really like the look of the sign on the water tower, so that's the reason I decided to just leave it with the sign on the side. So as you can see right here, I'm trying to place a sign on the water tower, but it just looked a little bit weird, so I decided not to use that. It was a fun idea though, but it just didn't really look the way I wanted it to. Over here I'm replacing the shiny counter with a wooden counter by placing planks just at the right height to overlap the textures of the stores themselves. And that just fits the building a little bit more than those shiny counters. And now it's time to finish the third bridge and the last bridge. And this was a simple bridge because it's just a straight bridge, it's not too long. And I suddenly noticed I still had to finish the bottom part of the previous bridge. So these bridges are finished now, and I wanted to fix the cliffs on this side of the bridge before placing the paths. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just placing a few rocks. I just cut to the end of this part because placing rocks is not that interesting. I still wanted to fill this area up a little bit because when you're looking at eye height from the train, you could still see over the hills, and I wanted to cover that area up so that when you're on the train you'll really feel submerged in the theme instead of seeing other themes in the background. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just adding more rocks and raising the hill slightly, add some more trees so you don't really see behind the area. The idea over here was to have the path split in two, so I could use one part of the pathway to go to the western village I was planning to build alongside the river down here, and the other path can go to a different themed area. I'm not really sure where it's going to, but this way I already have a connection for the pathway. It's time to build a general layout of the train station, my western train station, and I wanted to have like the small railroad crossing. And I know guests don't react to the train passing the pathway, but it kinda looks cool, so I wanted to have it inside this village. And another thing I wanted to do, because I'm just building the basic layout over here, was I wanted to have a small flat ride in this corner. So the village also has a flat ride for people to ride in. And I really like this. I'm not really sure what it's called. The Gears of Fear. I really like this ride because it kind of fits the Western theme, because in the Western era there's these steam trains, and a lot of steam powered machines were coming up right around that time. I think the first cars were steam powered as well. I'm not really sure about that, to be fair, but I thought that they are. But anyway, that's the reason I chose this ride, because it kind of fits the Western theme. I think it fits the Western theme best of all the rides that are available. The way I've built it now, this is really like the general layout I wanted to have for this village, and I will probably be editing the train station for the biggest part in the next episode. I'm not really sure if I did it in this session or in the next session. But for now it looks like I'm going to finish this small cliffside, have it go downwards a little bit and have it blend over in the village. And the pathway I wanted to have the same textures as I used before in this canyon. So I'm just finishing up this mountain on the other side as well. And I was going to lay down the pathway for the next area I want to build towards in the future. So I'm just going to shape the mountain over here and make one small bridge. This way I can really split the pathway into the next area, and when that pathway is in place I can really build the surrounding rocks in the correct place and stuff. So as you could see there, I was raising the pathway like for one tile, and then I'm going downwards for the next tile. This way I'm sure the two pathways are on the same height, and that makes it a little bit easier to build a nice straight bridge like this. So this corner is now finished, and I'm just placing all these rocks, and that's about the last thing I'm doing in this episode. So I decided to skip live parts for most episodes until I really finish something big, because it takes quite some extra time to do live parts and live commentary after each episode. So I'm not really sure when I will do them, but I was thinking every 5 episodes I'll do a quick recap of what I've done in the past 5 episodes. So that's a little bit my plan for the future, and I know this is episode 25, but I'm going to skip it for this one. And the next live commentary part will be a little bit longer. And it will be in episode 30, or yeah, I think it will be in episode 30. This way I can really explain my feelings about how the whole area turned out, because there's not really much to say about what I've built in this episode, because it was just that one building in the beginning. I finished the bridges, I placed a lot of rocks, and there's not much to say about those things, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So the live commentaries will be a little bit less frequent than it used to be in the series. I hope you guys can understand it, because it just takes some extra time for editing and stuff. So anyways guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button. You can always subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with the series, and I hope to see you in the next episode. See ya!